I'm coming to say hello. I know you're invited.
Yeah. My wife's doing great. We've got this great app that's launched this summer. Yes, 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 yes. Right. So, yeah. You still make this guy.
You've been saying that we've been traveling around the world?
Yes.
We left. I'm so happy we left after talking with you.
Right.
And then 4 months later, said in December, really cold. Why the hell did we like so December, the whole month was safe. We'll give about material things, and we tour where whatever it was, and Bradford doing so then one travel said, and we read, we read a book, which is left there and live no one else there. So we read that book and part of one of those things is to trying to make connections and started saying,
all right. All right. Hey, let's all come on over and have a seat. Having some great conversations going on, but I do want to not keep our speakers all night if they don't want to be here. So, just waiting for my iPad to boot up. I'm sorry. No. All right, welcome to our Quater / Foundry. And Ken, do you need to say anything about the difference between a Quater and a Foundry?
No.
No.
Technically, we are a Quater cohort, and the Foundry is a Quater cohort, just like Launchpad in Dallas is a Quater cohort. Yes, it's difficult to spell, so for those of you that know anything about branding, that's an absolute no-no. But it was protectable from a trademark standpoint and available. So,
Yes.
Does anybody know what Quater means? Quater literally means to break. So if you've ever heard Rob say, "Let's go break some stuff," that's where Quater comes from.
And now it's breaking the spell checks on machines all over the valley.
Yes.
My name is Bryn Peterson. So welcome to our event tonight. This is the second time we've done this summer. Our next event will be July 15th. Devin Thorpe's going to come to talk to us. We're going to talk about building greatness into your company. I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation. So put that on your calendars, July 15th. By the way, if you have a topic that you would like to have covered, I've got a sign-in sheet and a suggestion box over there next to the paper plates and the napkins. If you didn't pick up a napkin, I can tell because it's on your shirt. Go ahead and fill in your desired topic there. Tonight we're going to be talking about networking, and not just like exchanging business cards. We're going to talk about why you do it, how you do it effectively in a way that adds value to you and to the people you're talking with. And our first speaker is going to be Bradford and Dansie Jones. And Sarah is, she co-founded the Women's Psychic Council. She's on the board of the Women's Leadership Institute. She's been the CEO of, was it Applicant Pro, and she was the president of Infinity. She's going to talk to us about mindset and how to get in, how to think about adding value. Then David Bradford's going to talk to us. Now, David, I know many of you know David. He's the CEO, chairman.
I'm something.
He's the executive chairman of, I wrote it down because there's a lot of, executive chairman of HireVue. While he was also the CEO and while he was in that role, picked up $47 million in capital investment for HireVue. Before that, he was a little company called Fusion.io where he hired Steve Wozniak as the chief data scientist. I guess he discovered it because previous to that, he was just the guy on Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, he's not done anything else with his life.
Yeah, so
Second gig.
that was really great to recognize that talent was there.
Right.
David is known for his networking smarts, and so feel free to ask him questions or just buy his book, which you have up your game. And I'm not going to talk anymore. So Sarah, you don't have to use the microphone.
I have a voice. So remind me how much time you want me to take. 15. Okay, just cut me off when you need. Okay, so I wanted to talk about 4 points of networking. So the very first thing that I want to say was I was horrible at it. So I was a patent attorney in a former life, and I was a patent attorney for about 10 years. And when I was a junior attorney, and David's a former attorney as well, and I know we've got a few attorneys here, and there's a reason why we left. But I wanted to be a rainmaker. I would look at these senior shareholders, and I wanted to be like them. I wanted to go bring in the big deals. I wanted to do that, and it was unfortunately my case that no one would mentor me how to do it. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go try networking on my own. And I was horrible at it. I just really bad. I felt uncomfortable. And, because networking back then to me was like exchanging business cards and, something's going to happen right after I meet somebody. And it took me a long time to figure out what really effective networking is. And I don't know, we need to change the word networking. It's not really a great word for what really is the value that can come out of it. I've since kind of looked at networking as creating opportunity. And when you're creating opportunity, that is very different, right? You're not there just to connect with people. So if you think about it as how are we creating opportunity for each other, that's when it starts to be this really powerful tool. So I have 4 points I want to cover today, and if I'm always about if you have questions or want me to switch gears, I'm fine with that. The first thing is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So the thing, because I was super naive, I'll just admit it, but I would look at people and be like, how'd they do that? Oh my gosh, they're amazing. And the more and more, and the older I get, I don't know that I ever feel super comfortable. I think there's this myth, I don't know, David, do you agree? That somehow you're going to lose this feeling of being uncomfortable. And I think the degree changes depending on who you are, but I do think that I'm more comfortable with being uncomfortable the more I try, if that makes sense. And that actually extends into a lot of things in my life, right? I'm more comfortable with trying a new thing, even though I've never done it before. Of course it's gonna be uncomfortable because I've never done it before, but the fear of doing something and feeling uncomfortable starts to go away. You just learn that it's okay to be uncomfortable. And I actually think that that's where your confidence starts to set in when you realize, look, it's supposed to feel this way because the other person sitting there is also feeling a little bit uncomfortable too, right? It's very normal.
What's the line from the Avengers? The Bruce Banner's character? I'm always
angry.
Yeah, that's the secret. I'm always angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, maybe it's a little hidden secret. And maybe there's people that are super 100% confident with everything that they do. I'm not one of those people, right? I have a little bit of angst sometimes, and I just realize, okay, I just got to get over that, whatever that little uncomfortable feeling is. So I guess I just want to say that is normal. So if you're feeling like you're somehow doing something wrong, I don't think you can if you're really trying and putting yourself out there. The other thing I want to mention is I feel that networking, now that I am much more in the entrepreneurial side, is actually very similar to a lot of work that you're already doing. So if you're doing product development, it is very similar. You have to know who your customer is. This ties into my next, to one of the things I want to talk about like later of finding the win-win. You have to be willing to know who your customer is, because networking isn't really about you. And it's not about what you can get out of it. If you don't know like what that other person needs, wants, feels, what's going to motivate them, how do they view success, networking never creates the win that you're looking for. So discover your customer. So if you think about like that person who you're talking to, they are your customer, and it's your job to listen and figure out what is going to help them be successful. Give value first. So this is interesting because I kind of came from more of a scarcity type of, like, when you're a lawyer, you know, a lot of it is kind of eat what you kill. And it tends to create a lot of, you know, for those of you who have researched scarcity versus abundance, it can create a scarcity mindset. And so I had to learn, what does an abundance mindset look like? And I learned that through Women Tech Council. So I remember the time when we were putting on an event, and my friend Annette Christensen, and she's no longer in Salt Lake City, but she's probably one of the best networkers. You know Annette Christensen, Grant Thornton?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so she moved to Chicago office, got a huge promotion over there, but she's one of the best business developers that I have met. And I remember the time when she and I were just getting to know each other, and we were planning this event, and I said, hey, you know, we'd really like to get the word out. She goes, sure, just send me the list. I'll just share it with all of my ACG members. And I remember like being stunned, like, you would do that for me? Like, that is so nice. And you know, but people who think about abundance, that's how they think, that's how they act. Like, for them, they're not giving up anything to help you. And so I started to watch her, and I'd watch her as she'd go around basically like the community, and how she would give value. And I started to really understand what that means. So for example, Women Tech Council was an exercise for me to completely give up my agenda, right? I was a lawyer, I should be going and building a business, but I instead focused on building this community of people that really believed that it was important to support the women technologists in the community in their careers. And you know, it didn't fill my pocketbook, I didn't get clients out of it, but I created value, those relationship value with so many people. Now that I'm 8 years out, so many of those relationships have been hugely valuable from a business perspective. But nothing that I did years and years ago did anything to financially reward me, right? But they saw me as being willing to contribute value first. But the same holds true, I think, for just basic networking. So how many of you are in the Foundry with me, in the Foundry? Okay, so I'm guessing a lot of you, I probably said, hey, I know someone you should talk to. And I think that's a very easy thing. You don't give up anything if you can understand what's going to help somebody. So, you know, I was actually doing business development for a patent law firm for a while, and part of my job was to coach these patent attorneys how to build business development. And I'd say, well, okay, we're going to go to lunch with somebody, and I want you to sit and listen. And I want you to listen to what they care about. So we'd have this conversation, and then we'd leave, and we'd kind of do a deep dive. Okay, what did that person care about? And then they would say it, and I'd be like, great, how are you going to help them get that? It might not have anything to do with patent law. It might do with funding. They might need to hire somebody. They might need to grow in this other area. It might be completely unrelated to why you were sitting at that table. How can you help them? And it is a stretch if you're not used to doing that. It is a real stretch, because then they go through, you know, the various steps of, well, I know somebody, but gosh, that relationship isn't really worthwhile for them. And they go through this whole cycle of, I'm not worthwhile, or that's not important enough. And, you know, and so I had to help them say, look, the fact that you're willing to go back to them and say, gosh, I heard that this really was a big concern to you. Here's how I can help. That's going to mean something to them. And that's the concept of giving value first. Okay, abundant wins. Join their success team. So think of yourself as part of their success team. And you'll be surprised at what happens when you are just willing to help people be successful. The returns will come from places you don't always expect. So I guess I'll just give you an example. So I was running product development for a company, and we did this filming deal for the state of Kentucky to film their educators for this new product that we were building. And so it was going to be awesome. We were going to highlight their educators, and they were willing to let us come in and film for free. And so it was really great. And we built this really great working relationship. And so I'm sitting there on the product team, and I was sitting there thinking, gosh, it could actually really help them if they have to do Common Core too. Why don't they buy our product? Because they'll love seeing their own educators teaching them how to do Common Core. And so that's interesting because that's actually a sales conversation, right? But I was able to help them see a win-win in allowing them to have access to all of this video we were producing at a pretty, it was a pretty discounted rate, but it was actually the largest deal that the company had ever seen. And I'm driving this from the product side, right? So I'm not even a salesperson. And so I guess what I'm saying is the opportunity will come in these really unexpected places, and you just have to be open to it and then be prepared to figure out what's going to create abundance, right? They win, we win, everybody wins. And then you also have to be prepared for those times when you just really will never expect it. So I'm going to just tell you a story. We're at Domopalooza. Sheryl Sandberg had come into town, and I just think she's amazing. So I was so excited. She had never come to Utah before. And so they invited Women Tech Council executive board to go to this event. So I was like, okay, we're super excited. We show up early, we're on the front row, and then they said, well, can you actually move back because those seats are for our investor? I'm like, that is a major bummer. So I'm a little bit disappointed, and I end up sitting next to some other person. And the conversation with Sheryl and Josh James was so impactful that he and I started naturally talking, and he ended up bringing in one of my biggest deals at Applicant Pro. And so I guess just be open, right? Because you never know. I could have just sat there and grumbled and been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they made us move back and blah, 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 blah. But, if you just remember it's not about you and it's about just engaging people and figuring out what that win-win, I think that's always a great thing to be open to opportunity. Finally, I just want to say, just be you. So one of the challenges, I think, when you think of networking is you think, oh, I have to be this like super charismatic salesperson, or there's some magical thing that I should be doing. And when I was starting out, I remember some guy came to the law firm and showed us his business process, and I looked at him and I was like, that is weird. I can't do that. Like, I would feel so weird saying that, and so weird and uncomfortable in my skin. And yet he was a really great business developer. And I've just learned over time that you will find the right way to message, right? Or the right way, the thing that works for you. And one of the things I was joking with my husband about today was, so we watched The Office, and Michael Scott, he is just a doofus, like, right, for 95% of the time on air. But then whenever they show one of the episodes where he closes a deal, he's like, awesome. And so, which is just a good reminder to just be you. Don't try to be someone else, because there's something great about your personality, your style, what you bring to the table. And so just be confident in finding what that is, and don't try to be someone else. Because I just think that's so important, because that authenticity will actually come through even stronger with whatever those conversations you're having. So those are my 4, maybe 5 points. Any questions?
Yeah, so how do you help people when your network is either small or very specialized? Like you're in an industry and everybody kind of knows just that thing. And you're trying to help out somebody else, but you're like, I don't know anybody that I can really connect with that person.
Yeah, my message isn't like go out and meet so many people so that you always have somebody that you can pull out of your pocket to be able to introduce to. I think just then you have to be just hyper aware of what creates value for that industry. right? Every industry has, will have probably sales, product, legal or something like that. They'll probably have a subset of roles that are value creators. And I think if you are in kind of a niche industry, just make sure that you have a good depth within that industry so that you have enough value to offer.
This might be a big question that gets a big answer.
Okay, I'll try to be big.
I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how you surface value in conversations. Value opportunities, maybe a better way to say it.
Well, I would say always be prepared to evangelize. So find the thing that you're passionate about around what it is that you're doing. I don't know, if you're doing a startup. So a great example is Women Tech Council. I have no problem getting sponsorship for Women Tech Council. It has never been hard. I honestly, I would never put salesperson on my resume ever. Not that salespeople are bad. There's nothing wrong with salespeople. But the thing is when you're passionate about something, you actually don't have to sell, right? You can actually get people on board by making sure that you know how to evangelize it, right? And that's just going to naturally happen. I think when you force it, it just becomes a little bit more uncomfortable. What was your original question? Am I answering your question? So it's with anything, with your company.
More about what you're interested in, and
right.
You kind of talked about trying to figure out what their problems are, what they're interested in. So it's more like
sure, that's it. Okay, I see what you're saying. Well, I would say learn how to ask open-ended questions. So find out how to get people to talk. And so a lot of times, even though I'm a talker, you can tell I'm a talker, but I really can. I really can be quiet and ask a question that gets someone else to talk. And then you need to know how to follow up and drive it deeper. It's just kind of like a customer development conversation, right? Tell me about this. What challenges you're having? Don't be afraid to even ask about challenges. How's that going for you? What are areas of growth that you're looking at? What is your biggest roadblock? And just these really easy open-ended questions that get them to talk, and then be prepared to follow up and make sure the conversation still stays about them and doesn't quickly switch back to you. Because you can kind of tell when somebody's like, okay, I heard what you said, okay, now it's about me again. So just be willing to have the patience to let that ride through. So I think it's really about being good at asking open-ended questions. Even tell me about yourself is a great open-ended question, right? And be prepared to say that, evangelize a little bit about what you do too, because you'll find that you'll get some common, you'll figure out where the connection is by doing that. Any other questions? Yeah.
On your first note there of, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Just working with people trying to go through life transformation that I do with my business. What I found is to change that in saying, everyone was telling them, step out of your box, step out of your box, step out of your box. And instead, I use the philosophy of going, stay with your comfort, expand your box, stay where you're comfortable, and start adding that. Let's make that box bigger. And as we're doing that, one of my clients said, this is fun, comfortable. Like that, uncomfortable and fun. And I was like, that is a great way to say, fun, comfortable.
Yeah, so for those of you who didn't hear, she has this concept of fun, comfortable, which is really great. I think my purpose in saying that is I do think that, I remember, just being, novice or whatever stage you're at, and seeing somebody and thinking, how am I going to get there? And so my reason in saying that is just to remind people that, I had to learn too, networking, doing business development, all of that stuff did not come naturally, and it was quite uncomfortable for me. And it's just that work of getting, learning how to do it. But I guess I like to remind people that because I do think that sometimes the mental barriers start to kick in. And if they can just remember that it's okay, there's other people that are uncomfortable, I'm not the only one. It's okay to be the first one to say, hi, what's your name? It's okay to do that because they're probably uncomfortable too. Just because I don't want people to ever feel like there's this point at which you become this perfect at anything, that we're always learning and that we're always, expanding your box. So, but I agree, you can expand it in steps that are much more comfortable. Any other questions, thoughts? Feedback, criticisms, I'm okay. Thick skin, I'm all right. Okay, David. David's a good friend of mine. I'm really excited to meet him. How are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we'll have some fun here today, and let's see here. If this comes on. Oh, well, there's my email. And I'm happy to walk you through that. And let's see here. Okay. So we're going to skip through a couple of things from this base presentation. We're going to talk about the 6 Up principles today. And this is what I talk about in my book. Up Your Game, 6 timeless principles for networking your way to the top, really, of any organization. And so this has been fun for me. You know, I've been in business now, since 1977. And I, like Sarah, when I got out of law school, Sarah, I don't know about you, but I did really well in law school, and you must have done really well too. Patent attorney, that's quite the expertise. But when I got out, I had 0 connections. I did not know one lawyer in the universe. And I saw all of these guys around me, and a few ladies at the time, but not many ladies, back in 1977. They had jobs, and they were like, not a lot worse than I was in law school. I'm going, what the heck happened? And so as I looked and I penetrated, I got to understand them a little bit better. I learned that their brother-in-law was a practicing attorney, their cousin, their best friend growing up, etc. Right? And so I went home, I remember in 1976, Christmas of 76, and I was frustrated, and I was telling my mom, I got 3 kids, you know, I don't have a job, what's gonna happen now? And you know, I was frustrated, and I said, all these people have jobs around me, but I don't have one. And she says, David, and she's 91 and a half years old now, my mother. She'll be 92 in September. Fireball, works out every morning. She said, David, didn't I ever tell you, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And we've heard that kind of tried expression many times. But at the time, you know, almost 40 years ago now, it really hit me like a ton of bricks. And I started to understand that it was connections. And so I'm going to introduce you to my 60-30-10 rule. You ready for the David Bradford 60-30-10 rule? And I've just developed it. It's not in the book. So you're one of the first audiences I've run it past. But my 60-30-10 rule is this. 60% of your business success is going to revolve around people. The connections you make, the relationships you have, the people that you're able to bring in your, the smart people that you're with. You are the average of the 5 people with whom you surround yourself. So if you want to up your IQ, you better surround yourself with really smart people. And so people fundamentally to me mean everything in an organization. 30% certainly relates to your technical expertise, your ability to draft a patent application, your ability to do a term sheet in the venture capital world, your ability to do 3D animation. I'm pointing around the people that I know and some of the things that they do in life. And that's great. You're smarter than smart, Martin. And so he was one of my students this past semester at the University of Utah. So I appreciate him coming. And he's heard some of this before. But at the end of the day, he's got to surround himself with great people. Chad Lewis, the football player at BYU, wrote a book some years ago called Surround Yourself with Greatness. And so to me, it's about people. 30% relates to your technical skill, your expertise, your domain skills, et cetera, 10% dumb luck. But I will say this, the harder you work to connect and build relationships, the luckier you're going to become. And so let's just do a time check here. It's 7:30 now. Do you want me to go till 8? and then open it up to questions. Is that comfortable?
That would be great.
Right, unless everybody starts walking out at 7:45, but, okay. So we'll try to work through these ideas. But Sarah really nailed down my first up principle, which is to start up your network by giving with no thought of getting. You are meeting people in this wonderful Quaterre organization, this boundary group that you're part of. You'll interact with people, et cetera, et cetera. I will tell you right now, those relationships may not mean anything in the next 6 months or the next year, but I will tell you, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you'll be calling up, what's your name? You're in a green shirt, nice plaid, green shirt. What's your name?
Jamin.
Jamin. Okay. And what do you do? Computer programmer.
Computer programmer.
I'm making that up. I have no
I don't
idea.
know what he's doing, if I tell you what he's doing.
Well, I don't need to know that right now.
No, I'm a sales guy.
You're sales.
I'm a
Okay.
sales guy.
Good. You're a sales guy. Where are you from?
Solway.
Okay. You grew up here.
Yes.
And so what do your parents do? Or what did they do here?
My father runs a trade association.
Okay. Good. His name's not Rich Nelson, is it?
Rich.
Rich.
Yeah, Nelson.
Oh, is that Rich's son?
Rich's son.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right?
Hello.
Are you the runner?
Yes, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Right. But no, see, okay, I asked 3, 4 questions. I now have made the connection. I know his father really well. I didn't know Jamie was coming today. And I didn't know what he was doing in life right now, et cetera, et cetera. But I know Rich had some sons that were very passionate about endurance racing, that sort of thing, right?
Correct.
And so we've found a commonality. Did you know my brother-in-law is Joe Douglas, who was the head and founder of the Santa Monica Track Club for many years, Carl Lewis's personal manager. And so, hey, if you need a hookup in the world of track and field, whatever, I've got one for you. And so you start your network by simply being curious, asking a few questions. This man was not a plan. We met before though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
But I'm old, I forget.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Quite all right.
But the point is, I learned something about him. We found some areas immediately after 3 or 4 questions of commonality. When you find areas of common interest, trust envelops. I automatically trust Jamin because I know his father. I know the environment that he came from. And so if I needed Jamin to be a sales rep for one of my organizations, I'd interview him in a nanosecond, simply because I know where he comes from, etc. Areas of commonality, you form those, trust happens. Stephen Covey wrote a book some years ago, Stephen M.R. Covey, oldest son of Steve Covey. He wrote a book called The Speed of Trust. And when trust exists, everything in a relationship accelerates. And so do what Sarah said, but I call it the C word, simply be curious. Ask lots of questions. And as you do that, you will find areas of commonality that form. And so to her point, I mean, Fusion.io, big win. Everybody looks at that and goes, oh, David Bradford, he did whatever, and that was great. And, you know, it took off, it went public on the New York Stock Exchange. It had a market cap at one point of $3.6 billion. A company that had 0 revenues in 2007 and about $1 million, $2 million in 2008. By 2012, 4 years later, market value $3.6 billion. How did that happen? Well, one of the things is Steve Wozniak came in and became my chief scientist. That kind of laid the foundation. That kind of put down, you know, if Woz, of all of the things that Woz could be doing, join this little Salt Lake City company, it's got to have something to do with it. Again, Woz never wrote a line of code for us. He never analyzed our solid state memory devices. That wasn't his shtick. He was the man that we had to provide air cover for the organization. And I tell you, if we have time tonight, how I met Steve and how that all happened. But my first point on Fusion.io, how many people here know Don the Seal? Ken. Okay. So Ken came to the state about, not Ken, Don came to the state in about 2002. And he met some people in